We live in a very complex world, so trying to manage complexity in the sense of smoothing it out or avoiding it, it's not the right approach. As the proverb says, it's not about avoiding the rain, it's about learning how to dance in the rain.
Comms previously used to be shiny. What are the good things that we're doing? What can we shout loud about? It's more believable to show the short-term milestones, the things that have worked, the things that haven't worked. And when you're talking about things that haven't worked, it's why hasn't it worked? People want to know the who and the how of a process, not just the outcome or the result. That builds trust. If we're telling people what we're doing, it's easier for them to understand why we haven't hit targets or why things have had to change.
This is not only an external challenge. A lot of the time, organizations, as I'm sure you know, are very siloed. So the R&D department might not know what the marketing department is doing and so on and so forth. So part of the internal communications challenge, again, is being able to sort of connect those internal dots so that the marketing folks, for instance, know exactly the experiments, for example, that the R&D team is running, failing, or succeeding, and they're able to integrate that into the messaging. I think there is a false narrative a lot of the times when we think about, let's say, simplicity versus transparency. I think what is crucial in how you resolve that apparent sort of a trade-off is clarity, and clarity is fundamental. And of course, there's appetite out there for more complex messaging. Look at people like Richard Dawkins, for instance, who has been able to communicate very, very complex ideas from biology, from evolutionary biology, and so on and so forth, that actually popularize them and make some of these theories household discussions. Look at, for instance, Brian Cox and all the work that he did to translate effectively, quantum physics. It doesn't get more complex than that. And why were these people able to do that is because they focused on the relevance. In other words, they didn't use their physics or biology jargon and the way they do presentations in academic audiences to come and approach the mass market. They sort of adjusted the messaging to make it relevant for the audience that they were speaking to, and then you build the storytelling around it.
Relevance allows people to understand what that means for them. So what is the human impact? What's the societal impact? Because people don't always understand the science behind it or, that the data behind it, but understanding what does that actually mean? What will I feel? What will I see? What will it make me do is really important. I think a challenge that we as communicators face is that generally we know the business inside and out. So we use a lot of corporate jargon. We use words that potentially only people in the business will know, and then we communicate that. And it kind of takes us a step away from our audience. So I think ensuring that every time we communicate, we're thinking about people who are coming to this for the first time, whether it's the organization, whether it's the specific topic, and think about what they need to know and how we need to tell them about it.
In my experience, some communicators, for instance, when they create a messaging or a communications campaign, usually they may seek feedback from other communicators. That's good, that might be helpful, but one needs to be aware that that might also create a blind spot, because ultimately you want to get feedback from the audience that you're targeting. So one very practical thing one can do is, in fact, diversify the feedback base and, in fact, build a base that is closer to the audience than being closer to the profession. And the other one is, what KPIs are we using in order to evaluate the effectiveness of some of these campaigns? So for instance, reach, it's a great metric, but reach may not be the same, and usually is not the same with understanding, because people may be aware aware of a message, but may not understand the message.
And that actually aligns with like some of the data from our Brands and Emotions report this year, where almost 60% of communicators really believe that they communicate well through complexity. However, when you think about the audiences that receive that messaging, only 40% agree with that. So that's a 22-point confidence gap. They're not understanding, they are not seeing what we're trying to communicate. And that's when people start critiquing and questioning like what we're doing.